out of nowhere.
Just a bunch of straight ahead chord progressions.
Good to have you back at Austin Guitar Heaven.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You've been gone for a while, so I mean you've been here out and in, but
In and out. Yeah, and actually not even playing guitar that much. You know, like most of it is the vocal group.
right.
I just did a month-long kind of a rescue stint for a group called the Magnets. They're awesome. They're a vocal group based out of the UK, and they needed a surgeon to fix their drumming problem, and so yeah.
Do you want to mute the...
Oh, do you have a mute switch? Yeah, we can get. Oh yeah.
There you go.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Yeah.
More heavenly that way.
Yeah, more heavenly. Well, I have to have some line buzz
Some grit.
just to make sure that people aren't just whisked off into the rapture. You know, it's so heavenly, people just like fly through the ceiling,
Yeah.
and I can't have people disappearing from my shows. There are only 5 people showing
You're
up
right.
at a time.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, just had
So you were playing drums?
no,
Oh.
and so they had because there's the House Jacks, which is my main vocal group.
Yeah.
There are actually 2 of us in that group that do the vocal drumming. And the other vocal drummer was the music director for this group in the UK, and he's done a bunch of stuff with like Pitch Battle and Pitch Perfect and all the TV shows that you've seen, like the Sing Off and whatnot. So that guy was doing the music direction. They had a beatboxer that they basically had a conflict with, and so they just went down the list. It's like, okay, who do we know who can learn 60 minutes of music and all the choreo and drum to a click live in 7 days? And as luck would have it, I was in the middle of a divorce, so I was really not booking anything at the time. And so Nick, the other drummer from the House Jacks, he was like, "Hey man, are you available?" And I looked at my calendar. I was like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. That'd be a lot of fun."
Nice.
So had a chance to go over and do that, and but yeah, now that I'm back in town, like I'm bringing the guitar back out, and
I saw some pictures of Edinburgh. Did you play there as well? Or?
Yeah, it was the Fringe Festival.
Okay, nice.
And that group is potentially like, there are other gigs on the horizon. Like there's a cruise from Hong Kong to Bali in January. I'm not guaranteed to get those gigs, but now that now that I did that with them, it was really fun, and it was a nice. It's one of those things, like, without mentioning names, like when you get asked to be a music director for a huge group, it's kind of a similar sort of honor to have this music director who's highly accomplished call me and say, "You're the one guy in the world I know who can do this.
Yeah.
Please tell me you're available." I was like, "Yeah, I am."
Yeah.
And then we talked about budget, and it worked out for everybody. And and so a week later, I was there. And
it's always better to do stuff than to sit at home and wonder what it would have been like.
Yeah.
No matter how it goes. I mean.
Yeah. Well, plus it gave me like I'm sure you have a similar thing where it's like, okay, I have this gig. My reputation precedes me because that guy told them I could do all this stuff.
True.
And his reputation's on the line, so now I have to show up and really just kill the game. And so it was fun. It was like really clear target, and I just flew in and did my job and had a great time.
And it was only one show too, right?
No, it was 2 weeks.
Oh, it was 2 weeks.
It was the same show for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then they're gonna do that show again in Adelaide next year. And we're talking about my potentially doing that gig with them down there too in Australia, because the Adelaide Fringe and the Edinburgh Fringe are kind of connected.
Now that you're back in Austin, you want to bring, or you are bringing the guitar back. So, was guitar your first instrument when you started out, or?
No, actually, piano was technically voice was probably my first instrument, and then. My parents just started us all on piano at like 5, and then as an old kid at the ripe old age of 6, I managed to like finagle my way into some Suzuki cello lessons. And so I started cello, and then I was doing cello and piano from basically like kindergarten to 5th grade, and then in Ann Arbor there's great, to this day, really excellent music programs. University of Michigan Music School is all linked in. highly progressive city, heavy taxes, great public school system. We toured Europe with
Right.
with the public school orchestra.
Nice.
So grew up and then in 5th grade, when everybody starts taking their music lessons at school, because music programs are installed in the schools, public schools.
Right.
That's when I started taking drums, and then by 6th grade, I made it into all city orchestra on both cello and percussion. And then in about 7th grade, one of my friends got a guitar, and like I'd already been playing like cello, guitar. So, as an insecure 7th grader, it was like, well, I could look like a geek, or I could look real cool.
Yeah, right.
And
what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you take?
And then, and that's actually one of the reasons it's so comfortable for me to play in alternate tunings, because I'm used to going back and forth between mandolin and guitar and cello and all these other stuff. And if most of my tunings are stacked fifths on the bottom, which is just like a guitar. I'm sorry, just like a cello. So this is all like the bottom 3 strings are. That's all the
so
same
what
as a cello.
it's D, A,
My
or
standard tuning is kind of a modified dadgad. So it's D, A, E, G, A, D.
G, A, D. So you
A G,
just
A,
the
D.
E is different, right?
Yeah,
E.
D, A, E.
Because of your cello preference.
Well, actually, I got this tuning because I love Michael Hedges. Shocker. And this is actually, it's not the same key, but I learned sorry. So he has this tune on Taproot called I Carry Your Heart. So I got this tuning off of that one. So like I had that tuning in my repertoire, and I was just messing around with it because it's a beautiful song and lots of cool stuff in there. But the more you play in a tuning, the more you get used to it. And
so he used that tuning just for that song, or generally?
A few other songs too, and then but he did often use that kind of setup on the top. So for instance, one of my more well-known tunes that I do in this sort of Michael Hedges two-handed style, which everybody has now seen all over YouTube. Like I was 10 years too soon for YouTube, but I have One by One where the main riff goes. So that thing is a total rip-off of Michael Hedges. In fact, he has a tune called Aerial Boundaries off of an album of the same name. It's a different tuning, but let's see. I think where it does this.
Like that.
And you'll recognize. It's not quite that, and obviously my hands are trying to do my song now, but it's like a. So you can hear like the similarity between that and the different tuning.
Yeah.
Similar kind of hand motion. So once I was in the alternate tuning, or once I was in that other tuning, I I actually came up with that song. I was opening for, like, they put me opening for Monty
Mhm.
Montgomery.
Yeah. Is he in the same boat as far as his
He doesn't
tapping
use,
stuff?
He doesn't use alternate tunings.
Uh-huh.
That guy's he's just amazing, though, obviously. Like,
But is he like a Michael Hedges disciple in that way, or?
I don't think so. I think he's like, you know, if I had to guess, it'd be like Lindsey Buckingham, maybe Tommy Emmanuel.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Monty's kind of his own monster. You know,
Mhm.
like the way he's like if Eric Johnson and Tommy Emmanuel had the most amazing love child ever. That's Monty.
Uh-huh.
You know, because I've always felt like a lot of the pentatonic stuff that Monty does reminds me of that super sophisticated pentatonic stuff that
The cascading
Eric
kind of,
does.
yeah.
And and I'll say one other thing. I got to see Eric do an acoustic set
Mm-hmm.
at Folk Alliance Festival in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Man, more people need to see him play acoustic guitar. I just have to say that. Like, I respect him for I respect and admire him for everything he can do with an electric.
Yeah.
I was totally inspired and awed by what he can do when he strips everything away and it's just him and his technique and an acoustic guitar.
Uh-huh.
Holy.
I'd like to see that too. Yeah.
The guy's he's a genius.
Yeah.
So anytime you take a genius out of their normal context and stick them in another context where their genius can really shine,
Uh-huh.
man, yeah, I would love to see him do more acoustic shows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so then there's, they had me going on after Monty at Saxon Pub,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like back in 2003, I think, and it was like, okay, here's the guitar crowd. I got to go catch the guitar crowd,
Right.
And people didn't know me. Like, I had the Chili's commercial, so they kind of knew me as a beatboxer, and I was like trying to get out there and, like, you know, do my thing.
Were you gigging much at that point, or?
Yeah, I did 270 shows, almost all in Austin that year, because I didn't need to make a living because the commercial was paying for all my bills. So I was my own patron, and I was just like, I'm going to come out from behind the group I'd been in, Schrodinger's Cat, and I'm going to play as much as possible and let people know. And it was kind of funny because, this is getting tangential, but yeah, so they put me on after Monty thinking, oh, well, this will be perfect. You're a guitarist, he's a guitarist, like, his crowd will love you. And anyone who has ever played at the Saxon Pub knows that, like, unless you block the door, as soon as their favorite artist is done, boom, man, you can practically hear the wind shift as people go out.
Yeah.
And so as I was watching the show, I realized, oh no, these people are not going to like me. They like Monty. And what Monty is really good at, in addition to all the other stuff, like if you just break it down into some really almost tacky building blocks, it's like he's really good at like, yay, yay, and let the audience like feel engaged and excited by this overwhelming
prowess,
display of virtuosic prowess. And I thought, oh no, that's not me. I'm more of a drummer that happens to be playing on a guitar and tapping, but it's not the same. It's not the same emotional rush. And so I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to figure out like how to get their attention.
Do the whittly.
Yeah, I gotta do the whittlies. And so then I started, and I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna have to come up there, and before people are even gone, I'm gonna have to do a few guitar riffs that will like
stunt basically.
Yeah, I'll have to do a couple of stunts in the sound check, like get some beatboxing and the stomping. And so I just rolled through it, and I think it was like so like I realized I could do like so I was just kind of improvising, but I had to start with like a and just kind of doing this kind of stuff, because it sounded like crap right there. But like, you know, I was just thinking, okay, I gotta like do some actual noodly stuff. Otherwise, they're not gonna hear. It's a different language, because this is
different style. Yeah.
If your ears are tuned into, you know, whatever.
There's also
like
the visual is different. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so the whole crowd basically left. But
Monty stayed.
Monty and Phil and Chris Marsh stayed. And so
Phil Bass?
Phil Bass,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So that was like, and that was Monty's band.
Okay.
And they were all like having drinks at the bar,
Uh-huh.
and you know, I did all this stuff, and then I went straight into like, you know, stomping and beatboxing the two-handed, and like, and then they all came back up and just backed me up for the first 5 songs that I did. And it was just the most awesome. Like, screw the audience, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, one of the highlights of my entire life.
Nice.
Just having them, because they're so good.
Uh-huh.
And really, even though I'm doing some complex stuff, the chord progressions on my songs are not that
Right.
hard.
Yeah. It takes a certain sensitivity, because you do some very subtle modal shifts once in a while.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
change one note.
Yeah.
So yeah. But someone like Chris, for example, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
Yeah.
like those guys, they just they just jumped up, and I got to play Monty Montgomery's band was backing me up for the first 5 songs I ever played after him, and actually, like, you know, he's been incredibly kind to me. I used to have a Martin,
Mm-hmm.
and I just beat the thing to death because, of course, I'd do all the, you know, all the like. And the, like, you know, all the heavy duty,
Mhm.
like, picking stuff. But this guitar, Monty gave me this after I broke the Martin.
Wow.
Because first he introduced me to Ed Reynolds, who
Uh-huh.
has been, you know, has done all my guitar build-ups for the last 15 years. And yeah, Ed basically gave me this Martin is done. I can't fix this thing anymore. This is no longer your main guitar. And I thought, oh no. And Monty had said, like, you know, if you ever need a guitar, just let me know. Like, I'll hook you up. And of course, there's like the pride thing. You don't want to like go begging for a guitar from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have a choice, and so I actually first guitar he gave me was actually his number 2 Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
That was too much. He wanted me to beat it up so that it would sound better and kind
Uh-huh.
of like break, like get the body to breathe a little bit
Uh-huh.
more. And I just couldn't bring myself to just do the full battering ram thing.
Because he knew it was his.
Yeah, because it's not my
Yeah.
not my guitar. But I had that. I actually had that when my house burned down.
Uh-huh.
I ran back into a burning house to grab his number 2 Excalibur because it's only 2 serial numbers off his main guitar.
Uh-huh. So, question, I mean, your guitar for playing that style, in which ways is it different than a regular setup steel string?
Right. So this is the second guitar that Monty gave me,
Mm-hmm.
and when it came, it didn't have any of this.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have any of this stuff. Obviously, like the whole setup has changed. But what Ed does for my guitars is basically he does carbon graphite reinforcement on one of the braces here and adds a second carbon graphite brace up here so I can really hammer it.
Uh-huh.
There is a carbon graphite brace that goes all the way from underneath the fingerboard up to the edge over here.
Your Martin didn't have that, right?
No. But we learned this all the hard way. Like, this
Uh-huh.
is how I killed the Martin.
Uh-huh.
And so what we did with this guitar was before I
Killed it.
murdered it,
Uh-huh.
we just reinforced it where the
Uh-huh.
Martin had needed it. And so, I mean, this thing is like
Uh-huh.
basically indestructible in this whole area.
Uh-huh.
The brace that goes across here, I had actually cracked it to within an inch of coming apart.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a carbon graphite reinforcement all the way across that
Mhm.
one. And then the last thing, and of course we changed out the pickup. He likes B bands. I like the way they sound as a transducer. So this has a B band in it. I'd really love to get a custom preamp made that
Uh-huh.
would fit in this hole,
Uh-huh.
but would be a lot quieter because this preamp is just really noisy.
Uh-huh.
Then there's a I'm Abraham, disciple, 4,000 years ago.
Hey friends, this was another episode of Austin Guitar Heaven. Today with John Pointer. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, man.
Yeah.
Love you.
And hope we get to play more now that you're more in Austin again.
Me too. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're back too. So we'll
Right
have
on.
to take advantage of that proximity.
Absolutely. And you guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Austin Guitar Heaven.